Morning, Emily. I paused my chores to talk to her, but Emily didn't even look at me. She just sat on the couch and turned on the TV. Then she dropped her gaze to her phone. Yeah. I guess that's how it is. Just 'cause it's a new year doesn't mean anything's gonna change. Here's to another year together. Well, that didn't work either. How long's it been like this? About 3 years? They're so close, there's no way they can't hear me. But of course, neither of them answered.
How can you just ignore me like it's nothing? Do you hate me that much? Why? Please, just answer me.
I've never lost it like this since we got hitched. Tears are flowing, and my hands and shoulders are shaking with anger. Still, Michael and Emily don't react at all. If I leave this house, I'll have no job and nowhere to live. All I've got is a bit of savings from when I was single and some stocks. Even so, I can't stay here anymore. All right, I'm out of here. I clutched the divorce papers Michael had given me before, already filled out, and quietly left the house, pulling my suitcase behind me. I'm Sarah Thompson, a 38-year-old housewife. I used to be a career woman who loved her job so much that overtime wasn't a big deal. But when I got married, I quit my job and chose to be a homemaker. That's what my husband, Michael, wanted. Michael was divorced with a 15-year-old kid from his previous marriage. Her name's Emily. I want Emily to know what it's like to have a real family this time, after feeling lonely for so long. That's why I want my wife to stay at home. Michael said quietly before we got married. It's right for you to do the housework and support me, while I earn money. That's the best kind of family. Michael had an old-fashioned way of thinking, the domineering husband type. So for him, it was a given and ideal that after marriage, the woman takes care of the home and the man works outside. But my thoughts were different from Michael's. I was planning to keep working after getting hitched. These days, it ain't unusual for both spouses to work. And thinking about Emily's age, 15, isn't she about to become independent anyway? I figured it wouldn't be a problem if I worked shorter hours or regular time, even if working late might be an issue. Plus, relying on just one income is risky. I hate to say it, but wouldn't it be safer to have 2 incomes in case something happens to you, Michael? If Michael got sick or had an accident, the family income could suddenly drop to 0. That scared me. So I wanted to work too, just to be prepared for anything. Wouldn't that make Michael feel more at ease? I thought we could help each other out as a couple. But Michael stubbornly refused this. Look, I'm telling you I want to cherish Emily. So how does it make sense for you, her mother, to go out and work? I get what you're saying, Michael. But Emily's 15, right? We'll have school expenses coming up, and if I come home at a regular time, she won't feel so lonely. No, absolutely not. Michael cut me off. Besides, nothing good comes from you using work as an excuse to slack off on housework and stuff. Anyway, Sarah, you're gonna be a housewife. That's it. Support me properly at home. All right. I wasn't convinced, but since he insisted so much, I quit my job and became a full-time housewife. I wake up, do the laundry, make breakfast, and wait for Michael and Emily to get up so we can eat together. After seeing them off, I take care of the remaining housework like cleaning. Every day was uneventful and monotonous, but I didn't hate the housework itself. Things with Emily were awkward, but we managed without any major problems. If I'm being greedy, yeah, I still want to work, but this life ain't so bad. It's a different kind of fulfillment from when I was a company employee. But still, there was something else bothering me. Sometimes Michael would talk down to me. Welcome home. How was today? When I greeted him at the door, Michael would sigh dramatically. I'm beat today. You've got it good, Sarah. You can live off the money I earn and just do some housework to get your meals. I'm so jealous, really. So, what did you do today? Huh? Today I aired out the laundry and started preparing for the seasonal clothes change. What? That's all? Michael interrupted me and let out a loud laugh.
Man, being a housewife is a breeze. That's all you did? You can rest after just doing that much? It's like heaven. Huh?
Honestly, it ticked me off. It might look easy, but housework has its own challenges. It's tough not having set days off, and it feels lousy when people act like it's just expected of you. Above all, Michael was the one who wanted me to be a housewife, so I don't want to hear him talk like that. If he'd let me, I'd be happy to work. Isn't he the one who didn't want that? I wanted to snap back, but knowing Michael's personality, I couldn't. If I said something like that, it was clear he'd get sulky and things would get messy. Besides, it's true he's supporting me financially. I just couldn't talk back.
You're right, thank you. I'm always grateful.
Swallowing my frustration, I just thanked him. That's enough to satisfy Michael.
You're a lucky woman, Sarah.
I guess so. I think my face must have been pretty strained at that moment. No income, and getting looked down on just for that, how could anyone be okay with that? It was tough not even getting a word of thanks no matter how hard I worked on the housework. Michael seemed to think that working outside the home was the most important thing.
I'm the head of the household. It's only natural to serve me.
He acted like he was some kind of god in this house. Still, things were peaceful for a while, but as we spent more time together as a family of 3, the situation started to get dicey.
Hey, old lady. I'm thirsty.
Emily, could you please stop calling me that?
Huh? Don't tell me you want me to call you Mom?
No way, no way.
Emily's mom was way prettier. She looked just like Emily.
Emily laughed loudly. At first, she seemed to be putting on an act, but as her true nature came out, I was at a loss. She was more troublesome than I thought. When it comes to being difficult, she's even worse than Michael. She's picky about detergent and fabric softener, so I gotta wash her clothes separately. With all her likes and dislikes, I always gotta double-check the menu. She's always calling me over to boss me around. Seems like she thinks I'm nothing but a maid. Lately, having Emily around makes housework feel way more of a hassle. I've been making careless mistakes and forgetting things, which has gotten Michael angry at me more than once.
Huh? Where's my favorite shirt? Oh, I'm sorry. I sent it to the dry cleaners. What the hell? You're a full-time housewife, aren't you? All you gotta do is housework, and you can't even manage that.
When things don't go his way, Michael gets in a foul mood. I'm sorry.
You're useless. I ain't gonna pay for someone who's useless. If you want me to support you, do your job right.
I get yelled at like this almost every day. But when he's in a good mood, things are normal. I kept encouraging myself and somehow got through each day. Then, on a day of our 3rd year of marriage, I was looking for the right moment to bring up work to Michael again. Emily's about to graduate high school. We don't know her plans after graduation, but surely she'll be independent by then. I've gotten pretty used to housework too. I'm confident I could start working without neglecting my chores. I should be able to balance both. If the quality of housework doesn't change and I don't force Michael to share the load, he might let me work outside the home. Good morning. Yeah. I jumped right in. Since Emily's graduating high school, I was thinking it's about time for me to start working. Huh? Michael stopped eating his soup and looked at me. Why? He asks bluntly, with clear dissatisfaction on his face, but I can't back down now. I think we should save more for retirement. Plus, I want to work.
So basically, it's just your selfishness. Selfishness?
Is wanting to work really selfish?
What? If the old lady starts working, it's gonna be a problem for me. She won't be able to drive me around when I want to go out.
Emily doesn't have a driver's license. So I've always been the one to drive her around when needed. Just a phone call away, like a taxi.
That's right, huh? It'd be a shame if Emily had trouble.
Michael suddenly took out his wallet, grabbed a few $100 bills, and tossed them at me.
Hey! Stop throwing money! Don't do that!
As I scrambled to pick up the bills, Michael looked down at me with a smirk.
Satisfied now? You just want money, right? No! That's not it. This is money I earned by the sweat of my brow. Don't you dare waste it. I ain't gonna give any more cash to a good-for-nothing like you. And quit yapping about work. As if any company would hire someone like you anyway.
Michael downed the coffee and laughed mockingly. Emily chimed in, giggling and smirking at me. My face burned with shame and helplessness. I felt sad that I couldn't say anything back.
Oh, by the way, Emily's starting a part-time job 5 days a week. It's a bit far from here, so you'll be in charge of dropping her off and picking her up. 5 days a week?
Yeah, ain't she great?
Says she's earning money for her favorite idol.
Unlike you, who's unemployed.
Emily's way more impressive, huh?
With her working 5 days a week, there's no way I could work. Even part-time would be tough.
But I want to work too.
My true feelings slipped out. Michael seemed to hear it and twisted his face in displeasure.
How many times do I have to tell you? Just shut up and be a housewife. You can't do anything else anyway. If you still want to work, come talk to me when you can earn enough to support me.
Come on, Emily, let's go. Okay. Emily hummed as she lined up next to Michael. They brushed past me and headed to the living room. The next day, Michael called me out, saying he needed to talk. Feeling reluctant after yesterday, I faced Michael, who let out a big sigh and said, "Look, you've been nothing but complaints lately. You're not good for anything. At least shut up and smile. That's a mother's job. If you can't do that, here." Michael slammed a paper down on the table. I picked it up with a frown.
Divorce papers?
Yeah, be grateful.
I've already filled out my part. All that's left is for you to sign.
Just as Michael said, his part was all filled out.
You want to divorce me? I'm not forcing you, but if you're gonna keep making a fuss, I guess we've got no choice, huh?
Michael tapped the divorce papers with his index finger, grinning as if testing me. It's not like I never thought about divorce. There were many times when I felt I couldn't keep up with the two of them doing whatever they wanted. I often thought it might be better to split up and live on my own. But like Michael said, would any place hire a useless person like me? Having always done what Michael told me to, I'd completely lost my confidence. I've got some savings, but it doesn't feel like enough to move out and live alone. If I ended up homeless because of money troubles? The thought made me shudder. If that's the alternative, staying here is better. If I'm gonna divorce, I should wait for a better time.
I'm sorry, please hold off on the divorce.
Michael clicked his tongue in annoyance.
Then don't complain about what me and Emily say from now on. Just shut up and do as you're told. Got it?
Yes. I thought keeping things as they were would be better, but from that day on, a hellish period began. Michael, what time are you coming home today? Is Emily working her usual shift today? Both of them stopped answering me completely when I talked to them. Still, they ate the food I made, so I kept doing the housework as usual. Emily, are you working today too? Yup. Payday's coming up soon. That's great, Emily. You're earning your own money. It's like I'm in a different world, even though I'm right next to them. I listened to their conversation with my head down, feeling left out. Maybe if I could be more useful, they'd acknowledge me. That's when I started making the wrong kind of effort. I tried harder with cooking and did everything I could to be helpful. But no matter how hard I tried, the days of being ignored continued. To top it off, I saw something shocking. A message on Michael's phone from an unknown woman. Can't wait to see you today. That day, Michael didn't come home until morning.
Work seems busy, you okay?
Of course, there was no answer. Michael sneaking around with his phone. More overtime and coming home in the morning. It was clear he was cheating. But I couldn't confront him. What if it wasn't cheating? What if I was wrong? It'd be the end of me. Knowing Michael, he wouldn't just ignore it. I'd end up homeless. Our marriage was already falling apart, so what's a little cheating? I stopped thinking about it and pretended not to see. On the morning of our 6th year of marriage, I should have felt festive, but I just couldn't shake this gloomy feeling. The reason was clear. Even though the year had changed, our family relationships hadn't. As I was warming up the soup, I heard footsteps coming down from the 2nd floor. The door opened, and Emily came in yawning. "Morning, Emily." I paused my chores to greet her, but before I could finish, Emily sat on the couch and turned on the TV. Then she dropped her gaze to her phone. "Yeah, I guess that's how it is. Just 'cause it's a new year doesn't mean anything's gonna change." As I was feeling down, I heard heavier, hurried footsteps. And Michael rushed into the living room. "Oh, good morning. I overslept. Emily, we're going shopping. Come on." Michael didn't even glance at me as he sat down next to Emily, talking excitedly. "I'm gonna go out with my friends today. Then we can go shopping first, and you can go out after. Come on. I'll even give you some money." Emily was reluctant at first, but as soon as she heard about the money, she started getting ready excitedly. "You too, what about breakfast?" I tried asking, but neither of them even looked at me. I walked up close to them and said, "Hey." Still nothing. I was at my limit, both mentally and physically. I said those words thinking it might be the last time. We're so close. There's no way they can't hear me. But Michael and Emily just kept getting ready in silence. Then, Michael suddenly spoke up loudly. "Oh, right. I almost forgot. Emily, here's to another year. Let's stay healthy and get along well, just us two." "Yes, same to you. Dad, you're getting older, so you really need to take care of yourself." If you just heard the content, it'd sound like a heartwarming father-daughter conversation. But I felt incredibly uncomfortable. What was that just now? Wasn't that a dig at me? I can't take it anymore, I've had enough. The feelings I'd been holding back for 3 years suddenly burst out. "How can you just ignore me like it's nothing? What's this just us two talk? What did I do? Tell me. Hey." I've never lost it like this since we got married. Tears are flowing, and my hands and shoulders are shaking with anger. I glared at them, but they wouldn't even meet my eyes. "You ready? All right, let's go." "Okay. I'm so excited." Their carefree voices faded away. And just like that, Michael and Emily, all dressed up and looking happy, left in a hurry. On the table was the meal I'd made out of habit. The soup was still steaming on the stove. Even after saying all that, it's no use. Not only did I not get a response, they didn't even glance at me. It would have been better if they'd at least thrown an insult my way. Being completely ignored like that, it's like I don't even exist here. Am I gonna spend the rest of my life being treated like a ghost? No way, I can't stand that. Even if I end up homeless, it'd be better than this. I took a deep breath and started packing my suitcase in my room. When I only packed the essentials, there wasn't much to take. I finished packing in less than an hour. I've got no job and nowhere to live. All I've got is a bit of savings from when I was single and some stocks. Even so, I can't stay here anymore. All right, let's go. I grabbed the pre-filled divorce papers Michael had given me before, and quietly left the house, pulling my suitcase behind me. 3 months later, I was enjoying living on my own. Great, finished the delivery. Maybe I'll go shopping. As I closed my laptop after work, I glanced at my phone and was shocked. There were countless missed calls. They were all from Michael. It's been 3 months since I left. Why all these calls now after no contact? Well, whatever the reason, there's nothing left to talk about. I blocked Michael's number and went out shopping. A week later. Just as I got home after a meeting, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I had a bad feeling and didn't want to answer. But it could be work-related. Reluctantly, I picked up.
Hey! What the hell are you doing? Where are you?
Before I could say anything, I heard Michael's angry voice. It was so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. I shouldn't have answered. As I regretted it, Michael continued irritably.
I just noticed the credit cards are gone. Don't tell me you took them? What kind of nerve do you have, taking people's stuff without saying anything?
Both the cards are in my name. And the savings are from when I was single. Michael has no right to complain. Besides, he ignored everything I said back then. Who's he to talk about nerves? I answered in my head without speaking. Michael seemed to be getting more irritated by my silence.
Hey, can you hear me? Say something instead of being quiet. Cut it out. I know you can hear me. Hey!
Michael's voice was a mix of anger, confusion, and bewilderment. I get it. It's frustrating when there's no response. Being ignored makes you anxious. I understand that feeling well after being treated the same way by you two for 3 years. At first it was just yelling, but gradually Michael's voice became dejected, and eventually the call ended with him saying, "Huh? Hello?" After that, Michael kept contacting me regularly. He'd call at least once a day. Even when I blocked him, he'd call from different numbers, so I gave up and committed to ignoring him completely. I usually didn't even answer, but sometimes I'd pick up just to see what he'd do. Michael's reaction was similar every time. At first, he'd yell angrily, "Don't mess with me. You think you can get away with this?" As I kept ignoring him, he'd get confused by the lack of response and lose steam. Finally, he'd hang up on his own. I'd already submitted the divorce papers, so there was no reason for him to keep contacting me. The answer became clear about a month after the calls started.
Sarah!
While shopping, I suddenly heard my name and felt someone grab my arm. It was terrifying.
What?
I shook it off in surprise, and there stood Michael, my ex-husband. "Finally found you." Michael sighed in relief and grinned at me.
You have no idea how much we've been looking for you. We even hired a private investigator, and finally heard you were around here.
It's chilling to think they used a PI because I kept ignoring them. I'd forgotten how talkative he was since I'd been ignoring him. Michael was still rambling, but I tried to quietly slip away. He noticed and stopped me.
I'm still talking. Why are you trying to ignore me? It's the worst to ignore someone right in front of you.
I wanted to just ignore him, but that boomerang of a statement was too much. I couldn't keep quiet and yelled back.
Take your own advice. You and Emily ignored me for 3 years. How dare you say that?
Michael flinched and hunched his shoulders a bit.
That's in the past. We had no choice then. What do you mean no choice? Are you saying there were unavoidable circumstances for that cruel act of ignoring your wife for 3 years?
Well, as I confronted Michael, I heard a familiar voice from behind.
Oh, Mom! You're here, thank goodness!
Emily approached me cheerfully, linking her arm with mine and smiling up at me. I froze for a moment at this sudden change, but quickly shook her off and stepped back. Mom? What's with the sudden change? Emily looked puzzled and glanced at Michael, tilting her head.
Huh? Dad, haven't you made up yet?
Made up? Emily nodded with a smile. You know, there was that little fight and stuff, but let's all live happily together again as a family of 3.
What nonsense are you talking about?
After hurting someone so much, how could they expect me to just accept it? As I stood there fuming, Michael suddenly dropped to his knees.
I was wrong. Please help me.
What? Michael stammered as he spoke. The truth is I need money.
Money? You're asking me for help because you're in financial trouble? Your ex-wife who you ignored and divorced?
I thought I'd just borrow a little from the company for horse racing. I thought I could pay it back if I won, but I didn't,
and if I don't fix it by next month, the company will find out. Then I'm finished.
Before we got married, Michael loved gambling so much he'd go to the racetrack every weekend. He promised to quit when we got married, and I thought he had, but it seems his gambling habit hadn't been cured.
I see, that's tough. Good luck with that.
Wait a minute. Don't you have any compassion? I'm in real trouble here. That's right. You were married once, weren't you? How can you just say it's over after a divorce?
If it had been an amicable divorce, maybe. But why should I help this man after everything he put me through?
Look, I don't have that kind of cash to help you anyway.
So it's impossible.
It's okay. You had stocks, right? I remember what they were. Now's the perfect time to sell your stocks. Let's sell them and split the money. Come on.
I did show him once before we got married. They were stocks I inherited from my grandmother. When I told him I was interested in investing, Michael dismissively said, "That paper's worthless."
The timing couldn't be better. It's now or never.
So that's why he mentioned the bank book on the phone. He'd been eyeing my stocks all along. And he's talking like they're shared property.
You're right, I'd make a good profit if I sold now.
See? So.
And why exactly should I split that with you? The stocks are mine. You and I are just strangers now. I've got no obligation to help you.
Michael gaped at my words, looking at me in disbelief.
If I hadn't told you, you wouldn't have known. You're just gonna take the info and profit on your own?
Of course I already knew and was managing them.
Huh?
Living alone gave me a lot more free time. Naturally. Without high-maintenance people around, I was able to work and study investing.
To be honest, I'm not hurting for money right now.
Michael's face lit up. His eyes filled with hope as he looked at me.
Then.
But unfortunately, I don't have money to give to a good-for-nothing. It'd be such a waste, don't you think?
Michael's face turned red. His nose twitched as he pointed at me.
You coward. Taking advantage of someone when they're down.
Oh? Isn't taking advantage of someone's weakness more like forcing your wife to be a housewife so she can't easily leave?
Looking back, Michael probably kept himself in a superior position by taking away my career and leaving me with no income. It's true that being unemployed made me hesitate to leave.
And a coward is someone who constantly ignores his wife to force a divorce so he can marry a new woman. Acting like he's done nothing wrong.
This time, Michael's face turned pale.
You knew!
I'm more surprised he thought I wouldn't notice. Always sneaking around with his phone, suddenly working overtime when he never did before. Above all, these behaviors started right when they began ignoring me. Of course I'd be suspicious. Still, I didn't even have the energy to confront him about cheating. I was too scared of being ignored even more.
It's not like that. At the time, she said she had money. She said if I left you quietly, she'd support me. But now her business failed or something and we split up. I'm clean now, so you can check anything you want.
He seems to think he's explaining himself proudly. Does he even realize what he's saying? He doesn't seem to notice his excuse doesn't hold water. Basically, he tried to force a divorce by ignoring me so he could switch to a rich mistress. But once he got divorced, the mistress lost her money, so he abandoned her and now he's trying to leech off me.
You were so against me working before. I wonder why you've changed your mind.
Well, a friend of mine married a rich guy, and she doesn't work but just plays around all day. I thought that kind of life wouldn't be so bad.
To flip-flop so easily after being so adamant before, he's really taking me for a fool. And I'm angry that he's not even ashamed about cheating. Past or not, cheating is cheating. I want him to realize he did something wrong. If Michael doesn't get it, I should teach him.
I was gonna let the alimony go 'cause it's a hassle to see you, but since we've met like this, I guess it's better to settle things properly.
Michael's eyes widened in shock. For a money grubber like him, alimony is the last thing he'd want to pay.
Wait! Hear me out!
You've become quite talkative.
You were so quiet back then, weren't you? So quiet you wouldn't even answer no matter how many times I talked to you.
That's...
As Michael trembled, Emily pulled his arm from the side.
Let's go! Dad! This is bad! We should head home for today.
Emily's face was as pale as Michael's. Like father, like daughter, they looked just alike. I watched with a sigh as the two stumbled away. After that, as I said I would, I demanded alimony from Michael.
At a time like this, don't you have any heart?
Apparently, his embezzlement was found out and he got fired. He called to protest in tears, but I don't want to hear that from someone who ignored his wife for 3 years. You're right. I guess being ignored so much for 3 years that I felt like a ghost made me lose my heart. When I said that, he finally shut up. Since then, I've had my lawyer handle everything because it's too much trouble to deal with them myself. I was told it'd be hard to get alimony if he's unemployed, but it seems he had accumulated a lot of convertible assets, so I might be able to get something. The one I felt a bit sorry for was Emily. Apparently, she had a boyfriend she was about to marry, but they broke up because of Michael's embezzlement. She's been a shut-in ever since, shocked by it all. But if you trace it back, the cause of the embezzlement seems to be Emily's wasteful spending, so maybe it's karma. I'm enjoying a leisurely life on my own. I thought the days of being ignored might become traumatic, but it was actually the opposite. Even if someone ignores my greeting at work, if I say it again nearby, they usually respond. Compared to those people, everyone's so kind. I've become quite tough-skinned. I guess you could call it a blessing in disguise. From now on, I think I'll find some new hobbies and enjoy life even more.